Hello and most welcome to 1881 of the H series. We will today continue with Kelhoff's book, and we are reading from chapter 5, the author of authentication by withstanding the coming great tribulation of the revelation of John. Quite a lengthy title. And last time we mentioned the importance of adding flesh to everything that is being said, and how their specific way of timing or a time disjunct from the rest of reality with no specific connections doesn't work. So, and that was about the so-called retiming of the book of John. And there was several propositions. Trajan and Domitian were some among them. My point there being that that is a use of the classical time, a time where no real action is taken. It's just a timeline hanging freely out in the air. And this is very close to the Cartesian X, Y, Z with an added timeline. Let's see here. We'll read a little bit here, see if I can have the text a bit larger. Much better. We can continue where we left off. Just point out this is a tryout to do it on the mobile. Requires was the last word. 3. The challenge of polytheism and the imperial cult. The previous subsection argued that John highlights not only his revelations from Christ, but also his suffering for Christ as confirmation of his prophetic status. In my opinion, it is an open question whether his view at the time he elaborated his position of radical non-assimilation reflected a majority or a marginalized perspective among Christians in Roman Asia Minor. In the so-called letters, or better prophetic oracles, to the 7 congregations a number of details about John's differences with other Christian leaders emerged. These details have relevance for how John values the resistance and suffering that in certain respects in certain aspects, certain other Christian leaders apparently did not value. In particular, John and his opponents seem to have viewed differently the potential danger posed by the imperial cult. The following two paragraphs offer observations on the imperial cult, which, it will be argued, offers a context for this dispute between John and the Christian leader he opposes. Since Simon R.F.'s prize, groundbreaking
Groundbreaking
1984 monograph on the prevalence of the imperial cult in Asia Minor, an abundance of secondary literature on that cult's relevance for revelation has arisen. The most pertinent points for interpreting revelation in light of the imperial cult are reviewed in this and the following paragraphs. First, the imperial cult, which began under the First Roman Empire. Augustus was originally and remained primarily a grassroots movement. It was not imposed from above, but over time gained recognition from Rome in response to widespread enthusiasm among local devotees. Therefore, the notion that Domitian or any other emperor prior to Decius instigated a widespread persecution aimed at punishing Christian refusal to participate in the imperial cult is incorrect. I'm shocked, quite literally. Although this may have been John's perception or trepidation, no such supposition is supported by any credible assessment of the actual threat to Christians at that time. See. I think we'll have to end there already. It's going to be a very short summary. Once more, we can see the The last word, at least, here is at the time. Christians at the time. And we have a rather astonishing revelation for us as well, or revealment, and is that there wouldn't be such a much persecution, not even in those days. And that is, of course, in many ways quite the reversal of what we learned before. But it is brought in here that John's perception could be that there were a trepidation, or that he was suffering torturous inner feelings, possibly. Something that is quite acknowledgeable. It wouldn't be too far from what really could take place in such an action. And once more, we should put our eyes, Kalimera, we should put our eyes onto the timelining system. And now, in this context, is the correct persecution. So it's a way of, how could I express this? Seeing actions as not being in reality. So we can find the true actions. We can see whether, in citation marks, there really was a persecution, or it was just in the imagination of the people at the time. What does John mean when he mentions persecution? What is the sense of it? Of course, in the language game, he means what he says, or he means what he writes. That is maybe a great takeaway from this very short go-through. And I leave it to Kalle Lundahl here, but I have one problem. I can't hear you really. See if I can hear you.
Yes.
Kalle Lundahl, come in.
Well, we covered. What is important is, of course, to take away this work by Simon.
Calling Kalle Lundahl.
Do you hear me?
I hear very little.
Simon Price, 1984. Simon Price, 1984. Do you hear me now? Do you hear me now?
No, I can't. I don't know what happened. I hear you vaguely.
Perhaps we should leave it there. Only ask our viewers. Please remember Simon Price's groundbreaking 1984 monograph. Price affirmed there was no persecution at all.
Okay,
No.
now I hear it to some degree now. Yeah, my point
as a Price removed the so-called price on the head of Christians. There was no persecution according to Price, and all scholars after Price. So there was no price on the head of Christians.
Not anymore.
After 1984.
That was the end of it.
Price settled the question. Now it was only John's perception. And let us end there with this great takeaway from Price, groundbreaking monograph, 1984.
Yeah, let's do that.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much for that. And it was once more an interesting reversal. People try to revolutionize how we use words, and actually I would say that they try to put in a Chomskyan universal grammar for what people were saying at the time and writing at the time. And well, these tendencies we've seen before, but let's end there. And the only problem here was the sound. I couldn't hear Kalle Lundahl properly, but we'll give it a new try later on here today. Okay, thank you very much, Kalle Lundahl. And thank you everyone for zooming in and listening into this. Have a very pleasant morning, day, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you, Price.
Thank you, Price, as well.
The price on our heads.
Definitely.
Thank you, Price.
Let's end recording.
Now we have only a private language in our heads.